After the NBA trade deadline, one could believe that the Chicago Bulls are now embracing a soft tank. But after the latest warning from the NBA, will the tanking continue in Chicago? We're going to talk about that. And then we're also going to talk about the NBA All Star game. What would you guys' thoughts on it? And when will we see a Chicago Bull participate in the actual All Star game? Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac gang.
Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, like talking Bulls basketball, even when they give you a headache, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, prior to the All-Star break, there were a number of teams that had received a slap on the hand and told them don't touch the stove from the NBA. Those two teams were the Utah Jazz and the Indiana Pacers. The Utah Jazz, they received a $500,000 fine for pretty much tanking, and the Indiana Pacers received a $100,000 fine for tanking. And the question has it is, with the Chicago Bulls doing some of the things that they've done over the last few games prior to the All-Star break, will the Chicago Bulls continue to quote unquote soft tank? Because there's a number of factors that come into this, and there's a number of people on different sides of the discussion that say, hey, I'm not really with the tanking stuff. And then there's other people who was like, man, let's go ahead and embrace the tank. This team isn't going anywhere. And I think both sides have valid cases for their positioning. And I think that the Bulls necessarily don't have a choice. Just my personal opinion. You don't have a choice but to go out there and be a team that's quote unquote tanking. Can they keep some competitive edge like they have constantly put out into the airways over the last few years? Absolutely. They can go out there and still be competitive. But I see a number of things that is coming up for the Chicago Bulls, and the way that this team is currently constructed, they're just not good enough. They lack some talent. Yeah, you have some talented players per se, but are you a talented team? Because you can go out there and have some of the best players, on your basketball team that can contribute to winning. But if the team is not having that continuity, that togetherness, that understanding of how you want to play, and your head coach leaves a lot of things to be desired from the coaching standpoint, one has to believe that, hey, you don't have a choice but to continue to do what you've absolutely been doing. There's some interesting things that we got to think about too. When it comes to the state of the Chicago Bulls right now, we look at certain areas of the basketball team, and we all see that there is some things missing from this team, from them even being considered in contention for the playoffs, let alone a championship, right? And right now, as it currently stands, we have players that we absolutely like. I like Josh Giddey. I like Montes Buzelis. I've even been, a fan of what I've seen from Anthony Simons in his time in the Chicago Bulls uniform. But right now, you don't necessarily have that quote unquote game changer, or a guy that you can lean on to get you buckets in the closing minutes of the game, at least as it currently stands right now. Now, we know that these guys only had a few games with each other prior to the All-Star break. And maybe with a couple practices under their belt, we may see a better brand of basketball. But as it currently stands for me, there is still a lack of fill in the blank. You want to go in continuity. You want to go in with star potential. You want to go with star power. You want to go with defensive effort. There is a lack of fill in the blank. And I think that I've come to terms with not necessarily liking the tank per se, but I've come to a place to where, again, and I've said it once, I'll say it again, I'm more focused on the developmental side of said players. How are the touches, going to be distributed amongst these players? How is Montes Buzelis going to look or perform with more opportunity is what I'm more concerned about. Can Rob Dillingham come out and eventually take advantage of the opportunities that is right in front of him? Those are some of the things that I'm more so concerned with. Some other things is Jaden Ivey. Look, not the strongest of games before the All-Star break, but now after the All-Star break, you have a number of games to where we can see you start to bring yourself along to where we like, yep, this is a guy that we can carry on headed to restricted free agency and look to get a deal done, because we know that this player can only get better, especially coming off that injury that requires a lot of time for a player to per se get back to what they once were. So, and I think that the Chicago Bulls at this particular point need to be trying to see if they can get some lottery luck. That's just me. I'm not going to go out there and say that the Bulls are going to get the first overall pick. I am not saying that. I honestly don't even believe it, but there is a chance. And when there's a chance, you push yourself into that position to give yourself a fighting chance to see if you can get as high as a pick as possible. Me personally, if the Chicago Bulls can get within the top 5, I'll be cool with that. And if the Chicago Bulls somehow land at 7 like we did a couple times, in the last decade or so, I'm cool with that too. So I think that you got to go out there and buy yourself some lottery luck. It's interesting to see how these guys are going to come out. It's interesting to see if Jerry Jones will be willing to sign on the line of a fine. It's going to be very, very interesting to see the Chicago Bulls front office in the faces and the statements that they might make if they do receive a fine for quote unquote tanking. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's going to be interesting to see. We know I almost called him Jerry Jones. Might as well be Jerry Jones. Hype up the brand and we keep being mid. So Jerry Reinsdorf, Jerry Jones, I know y'all see the correlation now. So it's very, very interesting to see if a fine gets slid across Jerry Reinsdorf's desk. How ticked off will he absolutely be? Because I'm looking at this, man, and I say that the Chicago Bulls has kind of put it in our head already, to be honest with you, because even after the 2025 season, when we got bounced in the play-in again, they talked a lot about the offseason of 2026 without even playing games in 2026. So it looks like this was kind of on their mind already. And I feel like those guys went to the table and they felt justified with saying, like, hey, look at our team. Injuries keep piling up. We're in the same spot again. We're heading into the same thing that we've been running into for the last few years. So those things that transpired over time kind of justified their thinking prior to playing any games. So I look at it as an opportunity for the Chicago Bulls to just go out there and try to find some lottery luck, because I'm one of the guys that believe you can't waste time. You can't waste time. You got guys like a Josh Giddey that's on this team who's really, really talented and can do a number of things for your basketball team. You have a guy like Montes Buzelis who's on this team who I expected to be further along, but look who his coach is. And it's some on himself too, because Montes Buzelis, if we keeping it real, he does not always play the cleanest brand of basketball. Sometimes he can be a little tentative or non-aggressive, passive per se. And then sometimes he can be a little bit erratic with the basketball and cause some boneheaded turnovers. And we're still seeing the developmental process of him. We're trying to get that handle down pack and make it a little bit more tighter so he can go out there and do stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Montes is still a hell of a basketball player, but I want to continue to see him grow. And for the sake of the Chicago Bulls, you can't continue to waste talent, bro. You had Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo, Alex Caruso, and that opportunity was wasted because injuries, but then also because a number of other moves that did not happen or did happen while those talented players was in the building. Nobody was saying that we should be going to the championship with those said guys, but at least we should have been more competitive in a sense of playoff appearances and playoff wins. And then throughout that entire time, one playoff win. So now we have talent on the team now with Montes, with Josh. I believe Jaden Ivey has some talent that's in there that can be displayed on a basketball court. But again, I'm going to allow him some time. So you have to take advantage of this. So why not go out there and try to buy yourself some lottery luck? And I'm looking at it like this to top, saying to top it off. Lose the battle to win the war. Lose the battle to win the war. The battle is these last funky ass games of the season. That's just the real. The war is if you cash in on one of the top 5 picks of this lottery. Lose this battle to see if you can cash in and win the war. It's okay. But I know there is one thing we have to talk about. What's going to happen with the state of the team when these 3 guys return? That is Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, and Jalen Smith. Now you got to mix all these players in there, and now you got to get a good feeling of how all this is going to work. Who fits alongside Giddey the best? Who's going to work alongside Tre Jones when he come in and get hits minutes? What's going to happen with Rob Dillingham in his minutes? And what is the rotation for the bigs are going to look like when Jalen Smith comes back? Jalen Smith going to start, I assume, right? How do you get Yabusele some minutes? How do you get Nick Richards some minutes? Do you go out there and do the classic Billy Donovan to where he had Vooch as a starting center, and then in one half you play Drummond, and then the other half you play Derrick Jones Jr.? So Billy Donovan, will you start Jalen Smith, and then in one half play Yabusele, and then in the other half play Nick Richards? What are we going to do when more bodies enter the fray? That's the biggest question that we all have for ourselves. But I expect the Chicago Bulls to continue to do what they do because they necessarily don't have a choice. This team is not talented enough. This team is not good enough. For me, it's all about the developmental process, and that's what I'll be focusing on. If we start to win a bunch of games, I will never apologize for winning, but I will be looking at them like, we're going to lose the war. I hope y'all dig what I'm putting down. But hey, before we get up out of here, let's talk about the All-Star game, man. The All-Star game, the format was pretty good. Not even gonna lie to you all. The format for the All-Star game was pretty cool. Friday night, you had the celebrity game and then the Rising Stars game. I enjoyed the Rising Stars game and how they did that. And then on Saturday, didn't really enjoy the dunk contest, but the 3-point shootout, y'all know I'm a Damian Lillard fan. Chicago first, and then I have my favorites around the league. And Damian Lillard is one of my favorites around the league, and we was clocking time, baby. Shout out to my boy for going out there and coming off the, while he's rehabbing and winning himself a 3-point shootout. I ain't mad at it. Devin Booker, hey, he had him nervous. But, hey, in the words of Damian Lillard, I was praying on his downfall, low key. You feel me? Because it was just something good to see. And then the Sunday actual All-Star game where they had the 3 teams and they did the round robin. Me personally, I thought it was really, really entertaining outside the last game. But I appreciated the last game when it was the young USA players versus the quote-unquote old heads, as LeBron said. It's simply because it was, for me, it was kind of like a moment of passing the torch on a national stage, in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because the old heads went out there and beat World, and they walked into that last game versus them young boys, and them young boys like, hey man, we finna run y'all off this court. And now it was good to see. Yeah, you wanted a little bit more competitiveness in that last game, but I would say overall, I give it a B. Overall, I give it a B. I think the guys were competitive. Victor Wembanyama and all the players from the World, hey, they was playing their ass off. The old heads was like, we're not going to let y'all come be from different countries and come in and beat the USA. It was cool, man. It was cool. I don't think we should I wouldn't. I'm not going to tell y'all what y'all should believe, but me personally, I wouldn't expected more than what we got yesterday. That's just me, because these guys still have a season to look after. These guys still have things that they want to accomplish with their respective teams for the remainder of the season. All we wanted was some effort, and those guys show effort, and you've seen some really good matchups. You've seen some really good point scoring. Hey, y'all know me. Got to give credit what credit is due. Kawhi Leonard in that second game, oh my God, bro was laying on the heater. He wasn't next to it. He was laying on the heater. He was, bro, that's the Kawhi we deserved, bro. I don't know. Look, injuries do suck. You know what I'm saying? But that's the healthy Kawhi cook shit up. And in that second game, in that game versus the world, he was cooking shit up. I love to see it. I love to see it. But my last question is about the All-Star game, man. When do you guys believe will be the next time we see a Chicago Bulls player in the All-Star game? Man, is there anybody on this team that you believe will be an All-Star in the near future? Will we have to wait, or do we have two candidates? The only candidates I have on the team right now is Josh Giddey and Montes Buzelis. How long will we have to wait? It sucks, because any answer you get is just going to be asinine at this point. But I will say this. Josh Giddey was on that trajectory before injury started to creep in and the Bulls started to lose those games. I will say that. But my answer, y'all know we got to put it on wax, and I'm going to stick with it. I give it 2 to 3 years before we see our next Chicago Bull in the All-Star game. I'm going to give it that. I think the last time we seen it was DeMar DeRozan. A couple years later, I think either Josh Giddey or Montes Buzelis get up in there. But we got to continue to turn this thing around, and it's going to be interesting to see, man. But, hey, that is it for me today, man. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Live calls kick up later this week. We will be back. We will be doing post games. That's what y'all asked for. We will deliver, man. We appreciate y'all for all that love and support while the All-Star break has been going on. Before you get up out of here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always see red. Y'all already know. We're going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
Cognac. Gang.